Welcome to our exploration of one of history's most remarkable leaders, a man who ruled the vast Roman Empire at its zenith, yet found time to write profound philosophical reflections by candlelight in military camps. Today, we delve into the life and wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, and discover how his ancient insights can transform modern leadership. Imagine a world nearly 2,000 years ago. The year is 161 CE, and Marcus Aurelius Antoninus has just ascended to the most powerful position in the Western world, Emperor of Rome. Unlike many who preceded him, Marcus didn't seize power through violence or intrigue. He had been carefully selected and groomed for leadership through the Roman system of adoption, where emperors chose the most capable men to succeed them rather than relying on bloodlines alone. What makes Marcus Aurelius extraordinary isn't merely that he ruled an empire spanning 3 continents. It's that, while managing constant crises, from devastating plagues to frontier wars, he developed a philosophical framework that has guided leaders for centuries since. His personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, was never intended for publication. These were his private reflections, written for himself alone, making them perhaps the most honest leadership manual ever created. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. These words, penned by Marcus himself, reveal a leader who faced reality squarely, without illusion. Yet he continues, "They are like this because they can't tell good from bad, but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of bad, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." Here we witness the emperor's remarkable capacity for empathy, understanding human flaws without excusing them. Born in 121 CE to an aristocratic Roman family, young Marcus caught the attention of Emperor Hadrian, who arranged for his adoption into the imperial succession plan. Marcus received the finest education available, studying rhetoric, law, and eventually finding his intellectual home in Stoic philosophy, a practical approach to wisdom that would define his leadership style. The Rome that Marcus inherited was at its territorial peak, but faced mounting challenges. Economic pressures, military threats on multiple borders, and the beginning of what historians later called the Antonine Plague, possibly smallpox, which would eventually kill millions. In these crucibles of crisis, Marcus developed leadership principles that remain strikingly relevant in our own turbulent times. Unlike many powerful figures who become intoxicated by their authority, Marcus constantly reminded himself of his mortality and fallibility. "Remember that you are an actor in a play determined by the director," he wrote, understanding that power is temporary and leadership is a role to be performed with excellence rather than a personal entitlement. What can today's leaders, whether they manage global corporations, government agencies, or small teams, learn from this ancient Roman? In an age of unprecedented complexity, information overload, and constant disruption, Marcus offers a counterintuitive approach. Focus inward before acting outward. Control what you can control, primarily your own perceptions, judgments, and actions, while accepting with equanimity what you cannot. The stoicism that Marcus practiced wasn't about suppressing emotions or maintaining a stiff upper lip, as modern misconceptions might suggest. Rather, it was a sophisticated psychological system for maintaining clarity and ethical purpose under pressure. When faced with a crisis, Marcus taught himself to ask, "Is this within my control? Does getting upset improve the situation? What virtue does this moment require of me?" Consider how revolutionary this approach remains today. In boardrooms and executive offices worldwide, leaders regularly face situations that trigger fear, anger, or anxiety. Marcus would counsel them to pause and examine these reactions rather than being driven by them. You have power over your mind, not outside events, he reminds us. Realize this, and you will find strength. What makes Marcus Aurelius particularly fascinating is that he wasn't merely a philosopher who theorized about leadership from a distance. He faced the ultimate leadership test, guiding a complex society through existential threats. For much of his reign, he personally commanded troops on the empire's dangerous northern frontiers, defending against Germanic invasions, while simultaneously managing the plague that devastated the population and economy. In our upcoming exploration, we'll examine specific principles from Marcus Aurelius that can transform modern leadership, from his approaches to resilience and decision-making to his insights on motivating others and maintaining integrity under pressure. We'll see how these ancient wisdom traditions can be applied in today's high-speed, digital world, offering an antidote to burnout, ethical confusion, and the leadership challenges that define our era. As we've seen, Marcus Aurelius wasn't merely a philosophical theorist. He tested his ideas in the crucible of imperial leadership, facing challenges that would break lesser rulers. Now, let's examine how his specific principles can transform leadership in our own complex world. The core of Marcus's approach to leadership begins with radical self-awareness. The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit, he wrote. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are. This deceptively simple guidance contains profound wisdom for today's leaders, who often operate in environments filled with distortion, bias, and information overload. Consider the modern executive facing quarterly pressure, disruptive competitors, and internal politics. Marcus would advise first achieving mental clarity, not through wishful thinking, but through unflinching assessment of reality. As he noted, the object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. This clarity begins with what psychologists now call metacognition, thinking about our thinking. Marcus was remarkably advanced in recognizing how our perceptions shape our reality. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. For the modern leader bombarded with data, opinions, and competing narratives, this reminder to question one's own assumptions proves invaluable. In today's corporate environments, we often witness leaders who become entangled in ego-driven conflicts or personal vendettas. Marcus offers a refreshing alternative. How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it? He recognized that emotional reactivity, particularly anger, clouds judgment and diminishes leadership effectiveness. When faced with difficult colleagues or subordinates, Marcus suggested a perspective shift. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, I will encounter people who talk too much, who are selfish, egotistical, or irritating. They are like this because they don't know any better. This isn't passive acceptance of bad behavior, but rather a strategic mental positioning that prevents other shortcomings from disrupting your own effectiveness. Resilience, perhaps the most crucial leadership quality in turbulent times, was central to Marcus's philosophy. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This distinction between what we can and cannot control forms the foundation of resilience. The modern leader faces disruptions that would have been unimaginable in Marcus's time: algorithmic market shifts, viral social media crises, and technological revolutions that can render business models obsolete overnight. Yet the Stoic approach remains powerful. Focus your energy entirely on what you can influence, while accepting with equanimity what you cannot. Crisis management provides perhaps the clearest example of Marcus's relevance. When disaster strikes, whether a pandemic, financial collapse, or organizational scandal, leaders typically experience fear and anxiety. Marcus would counsel, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This doesn't mean denying reality or suppressing emotion. Rather, it means recognizing that our interpretation of events, not the events themselves, determines our response. A leader who can maintain this mental discipline creates space for clear thinking when it's most needed. In team leadership, Marcus offers equally valuable insights. Unlike many ancient rulers who viewed subordinates as mere instruments, Marcus recognized the fundamental dignity of all people. Treat with respect the power you have to form an opinion. By it alone can the helmsman within you avoid error. This respect for human autonomy and capacity for reason translates to leadership that empowers rather than micromanages. The modern workplace often struggles with purpose and meaning. Here, too, Marcus provides guidance. People exist for one another. You can instruct or endure them. This interconnectedness, recognizing that organizations are human systems where each person impacts others, creates a framework for ethical leadership that transcends mere profit maximization or personal advancement. Perhaps most relevant to our era of burnout and work-life imbalance is Marcus's perspective on time and mortality. Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life, he wrote. This countercultural message reminds leaders that effectiveness isn't measured by exhaustion or sacrifice, but by clarity, purpose, and balanced action. As we continue our exploration, we'll examine how these principles can be applied to specific leadership challenges, from decision-making under uncertainty to maintaining ethical standards in environments that reward compromise. We'll see how Marcus's ancient wisdom provides not just philosophical comfort, but practical strategies for leadership excellence in our own complex world. Having explored Marcus Aurelius's core leadership principles, we now turn to their practical application. The emperor himself would approve of this shift from theory to practice, for as he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The modern leader faces decisions daily that test both competence and character. Let's examine how Marcus's wisdom provides a framework for navigating these challenges with both effectiveness and integrity. Decision-making under uncertainty represents perhaps the greatest test of leadership. In today's volatile business environment, leaders often face incomplete information and compressed timeframes. Marcus's approach offers remarkable clarity. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. Consider the tech executive weighing a major strategic pivot. Competitors are moving in new directions, market signals are mixed, and the stakes are enormous. The Stoic approach isn't to eliminate uncertainty, an impossible task, but to develop comfort with it. As Marcus advised, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. Information overload presents another modern challenge unknown to Marcus. Today's leaders drown in data while starving for wisdom. The emperor's solution would be ruthless prioritization. If you seek tranquility, do less. Then he clarifies, not less effort, but less trivial, unnecessary activity. This doesn't mean abdicating responsibility, but rather focusing intensely on what truly matters. The modern equivalent might be the leader who blocks calendar time for deep work, who delegates effectively, and who recognizes that constant reactivity to emails and messages diminishes both judgment and effectiveness. Ethical leadership, Maintaining personal integrity amid pressures to compromise was as challenging in Marcus's time as in ours. He wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This straightforward ethical framework serves leaders well when facing the subtle corruptions of power. When presented with opportunities for corner cutting or ethical gray areas, the Stoic leader asks not, "Can I get away with this?" but rather, "Is this aligned with my principles?" Marcus reminds us that each choice shapes our character. Our actions may be impeded, but there can be no impeding our intentions or dispositions, because we can accommodate and adapt. Team conflict represents another leadership challenge where Marcus offers valuable guidance. When tensions arise between team members, as they inevitably do, he would advise beginning with self-examination. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, "The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil." This isn't cynicism, but realism, and it continues with a crucial second step. "But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." This recognition of shared humanity allows the leader to address conflict without demonizing opponents or becoming emotionally entangled. When mediating disputes, the Stoic leader maintains emotional equilibrium while seeking understanding. As Marcus noted, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. This perspective-taking ability, recognizing that conflicting parties may each have partial truth, allows for resolution that transcends mere compromise. Building organizational culture, perhaps the most enduring leadership responsibility, benefits tremendously from Stoic principles. Marcus understood that culture flows from values consistently demonstrated. Waste no time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. The leader who embodies values rather than merely proclaiming them creates cultural alignment through attraction rather than enforcement. Consider how this applies to the modern challenge of purpose-driven leadership. Organizations increasingly recognize that profit alone provides insufficient motivation. Marcus would approve, having written, "Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them, then, or bear with them." This interconnectedness creates the foundation for organizational purpose beyond mere financial metrics. Perhaps most practically, Marcus offers guidance for leadership sustainability, preventing the burnout that plagues so many in positions of responsibility. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. This gratitude practice, coupled with his emphasis on perspective, creates resilience against the stresses of leadership. The modern executive working 70-hour weeks might consider Marcus's warning. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. This reminder of mortality, what psychologists now call mortality salience, doesn't induce panic, but clarity about priorities and purpose. As we've seen, Marcus Aurelius's leadership wisdom transcends its ancient origins to provide practical guidance for today's most pressing challenges. His emphasis on self-awareness, emotional regulation, ethical clarity, and human interconnection creates a leadership approach that is both highly effective and deeply humane. We've explored how Marcus Aurelius's principles apply to practical leadership challenges. Now, we turn to what may be his most enduring legacy, the concept of the inner citadel, that fortress of mind that allows a leader to maintain equilibrium amid chaos. Marcus wrote during military campaigns, facing barbarian invasions, plague, and personal tragedy. Yet his words reveal a mind that remained centered. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, he noted. This inner sanctuary, what Pierre Hadot called the inner citadel, represents the leader's ultimate resource. The modern leader faces different yet equally destabilizing forces: market volatility, technological disruption, political uncertainty, and the relentless pace of change. Building this inner citadel is not merely philosophical nicety, but practical necessity. How does one construct this mental fortress? Marcus offers clear architecture. First comes the practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Begin each day by telling yourself, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness," he advised. This isn't pessimism, but preparation. By mentally rehearsing difficulties, the leader develops psychological antibodies against being destabilized when challenges inevitably arise. The modern equivalent might be the scenario planning that prepares organizations for market shifts, or the personal resilience practice of anticipating obstacles. A CEO facing a potential public relations crisis doesn't hope for the best. She prepares response scenarios. A team leader anticipating resistance to change doesn't ignore potential objections. He addresses them preemptively. As Marcus would say, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. The second element of the inner citadel is the discipline of assent, choosing how to interpret events. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this, you have the power to revoke at any moment, Marcus wrote. Consider the leader facing a significant setback, perhaps a failed product launch or lost client. The event itself cannot be changed, but the interpretation remains within her control. Is this a catastrophe or a learning opportunity? A reflection of personal inadequacy or simply part of business reality? This isn't mere positive thinking. It's the disciplined practice of assigning accurate meaning to events. The Stoic leader doesn't deny reality, but frames it usefully. As Marcus advised, our life is what our thoughts make it. The third foundation of the inner citadel is perhaps most powerful: the view from above. Marcus regularly practiced cosmic perspective. Think of the whole universe of matter and how small your share. Think about the expanse of time and how brief, almost momentary, the part marked for you. Think of the workings of fate and how infinitesimal your role. This cosmic viewpoint doesn't diminish responsibility, but contextualizes it. The leader facing what seems an insurmountable challenge gains perspective by zooming out. In 100 years, will this matter? In the context of human history, how significant is this quarter's performance? A fascinating modern parallel exists in what astronauts call the overview effect, the cognitive shift reported when viewing Earth from space. Former NASA astronaut Edgar Mitchell described it as an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. This perspective doesn't create passivity, but purposeful action without attachment to outcome. The leader maintains commitment to excellence while recognizing the limits of control. As Marcus wrote, "Do what nature now requires. Set yourself in motion if it is in your power, and do not look about to see if anyone will observe it." The inner citadel also requires regular maintenance through deliberate practice. For Marcus, this meant daily written reflection, the very meditations that survive today. The modern equivalent might be journaling, meditation, or structured reflection time, practices increasingly adopted by leaders from Ray Dalio to Bill Gates. Research confirms what Marcus intuited. These practices physically reshape the brain. Neuroplasticity studies show that meditation increases gray matter in regions associated with self-awareness, compassion, and introspection, precisely the qualities the Stoic leader cultivates. The ultimate test of the inner citadel comes not during calm, but crisis. As Nassim Taleb observes in his work on anti-fragility, some systems don't merely withstand stress, but grow stronger through it. The Stoic leader exemplifies this quality, facing adversity not merely with resilience, but with the capacity to derive meaning and growth from challenges. Marcus himself faced the ultimate test when his co-emperor Lucius Verus died, followed by the Antonine Plague that killed millions. His response was not despair, but renewed commitment to duty and the common good. The modern leader facing crisis, whether pandemic, economic downturn, or organizational failure, can find in Marcus a model of steadiness amid turbulence. The inner citadel, ultimately, is not escape from reality but engagement with it on different terms. It allows the leader to be fully present to challenges without being consumed by them. As Marcus wrote in what might be his most essential leadership advice, concentrate every minute on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness, tenderly, willingly, with justice.